Hey guys, just letting you know that I'm still working on the Kipo Season 3 analysis. It has turned out to be a much bigger video than I anticipated, but I have recorded the script as of writing this script, so hopefully it won't be too much longer. Anyway, I just watched Batman the Killing Joke, so I figured I may as well talk about it to give you all some supplementary content while you wait for the Kipo video. Also, this video will obviously contain spoilers for the Killing Joke, so there you go, you have been warned. I am not someone who is interested in Marvel/DC films in general. Hell, I barely even know the difference between the two. Outside of movies like Infinity War, I've never felt like any of the handful of superhero movies that get produced every year would really be remembered by the cultural consciousness, and thus I've never felt particularly interested in talking about them. And this is something I don't really like about myself. I know that a big part of the appeal of these movies and characters is about building a greater and greater understanding of them as you consume all of the intellectual properties that they're featured in, but I could just never get motivated to want to make that commitment. So I tried to spark that passion in myself just last night by watching Batman the Killing Joke, because I saw it on Netflix and figured that maybe I'd be more interested in the Batman story this time around if it was animated. I mean, the only two times I ever got heavily invested in a Spider-Man story were both times that it was animated, so maybe this was just the push I needed to get myself into such a mainstream intellectual property as Batman. However, much to my dismay, that was not the case, because I did not like this movie. I'd like to first point out that the visuals of the film were something of a letdown for me, considering the promotional art that Netflix decided to use. I feel like it's straight up misleading as to what the film is gonna look like, which just turns out to be this kind of average TV show looking art style with slightly above average animation for a TV show. Even still, I felt like the characters were kind of stiff with their movements most of the time, which was pretty disappointing considering this is a movie. I definitely would not have been satisfied with the quality of presentation if I saw this at the cinema. There are some good scenes though. The ones that I found visually memorable were the two hand-to-hand combat sequences that Batwoman has with that Carlos guy in the bank and then with Batman himself on the rooftop. But I feel like for the rest of the hour of the film, the characters just don't really have much weight or momentum to their actions, and I don't think I would have minded this as much had I not had my expectations set so high from the promo art. When the two shots that are used for the cover and idle screen actually do show up in the movie, the effect is jarring because they look completely different from the rest of the film. Plus, after only a few seconds, you just get jerked back into the art style of the rest of the movie. I don't like to assume bad things about the production team of a piece of media, but this seriously comes off like they just added these shots in because they knew that there wasn't a frame of the rest of the movie that was cover art material. I'm not saying that I believe this is what they were doing, and I don't even care enough to actually do research to figure out, but this is just how the situation looks at first glance, and it made me feel like I had been manipulated. Another thing I was disappointed in with The Killing Joke was its characters. Barbara Gordon, aka Batwoman, was actually an unexpected surprise as an addition to the cast, but I felt like they only wrote half of her character arc. I liked her dynamic with Batman, especially as it became apparent that they have a relationship that they're still feeling out, lol, but the execution of it just didn't really do it for me. If I had to point to one big reason this was the case, it's because the movie delivers so much of the plotline to the audience through dialogue. After any noteworthy event, the film takes the opportunity to just have the characters talk about how they feel rather than letting their actions speak for themselves. I found this particularly egregious with Barbara's gay friend from the library who does nothing but probe her about her relationship status. This is used as the vector for learning basically Barbara's entire opinion about Batman, and on top of that, it's perpetuating a really shitty stereotype about gay men.
He's single. Girl, you've been holding out. How was it? Babs, girl, I do not understand why you're having fishing troubles when we are in the middle of a lake. And they say the gay scene is complicated. What?
I generally don't take issue with a lot of the stuff that many people consider problematic in the media I watch. I tend to focus on how I feel about a certain work rather than how other people might feel because I don't like speaking on behalf of others. But even though I was taking that approach to this movie, I still felt kinda offended. Yeah, I used the O word. To me, the decision to make Barbara's work friend gay comes across as very insensitive towards gay people. He did not have to be gay at all, it adds nothing to his character or anyone else's character, and the gay best friend is just such an incredibly irritating cliche. I don't even know if I would consider it lazy writing so much as that it's emblematic of my suspicions that the writers, for whatever reason, didn't have a solid plan with Barbara's arc or really the movie as a whole. For instance, they set up this genuinely interesting moment of characterization for Batman when he explains to Barbara that he's so good at his job because he's become so jaded to things like death and trauma that he doesn't even really care about people anymore and can thus function under complete utilitarianism. antagonism. The implication being that he fights crime more out of a desire to see criminals be brought to justice than to protect the innocent. And Barbara gets a taste of this when she loses her composure and beats the shit out of Carlos. Following this, she resigns as Batgirl and then gets shot by the Joker, which leaves her unable to walk. And this is the last we see of her until an after-credits sequence where it turns out that she is seemingly still doing hero work from behind a computer monitor. Now, if you were paying attention, you might have noticed that this is incredibly unsatisfying character writing. The main source of Barbara's conflict was that she wanted to take on more hero work, but Batman believed that she wasn't ready, she wasn't jaded enough. And rather than strive to meet Batman's requirements for hero work, or better yet, to change his philosophy about it, Barbara just quits. Nothing changes. And then when that after-credits scene does take place, Barbara is just doing hero work again, just in a different form. There is no implication that she had to do any hard work since we last saw her, nor that anyone came to any big revelations for this to happen. Just no progress was made. What's the point? This is a question I found myself asking frequently throughout the course of this film. What was the point of Barbara's arc? What was the point of the R rating? What was the point of everything to do with the Joker? Like, he sets up this huge twisted carnival, kidnaps Barbara's dad, and tries to make him go insane to prove that everyone is capable of becoming as crazy as he is? Dude says that everyone is just one bad day away from going insane, to which Batman argues that normal people don't just crack the way that Joker did when they go through trauma, obviously implying that the Joker is just crazy by nature. But neither of them seem to recall that the catalyst for Joker's insanity was falling into a vat of crazy laugh acid shit. Up until that point, he was actually dealing with the death of his wife and unborn child the same way that anyone would. In fact, he seemed to be handling it better than most would in his position. So I find it very hard to believe that this was the trauma that sent him over the edge. As a result, the whole self-analysis, philosophical mental circle jerk that is the conversation he has with Batman about how, you know, we're not so different, you and I, felt completely arbitrary and removed from the rest of the story. I alluded to this earlier, but I came away with the impression that the creative team didn't plan this movie out very well. Maybe they didn't have the time or the personnel necessary to make it work, but regardless, it feels like they had a lot of half-baked ideas for this film and had no idea how to make it all work together, which leads to much of the movie feeling pointless. Like, this movie is R-rated, I can only assume because they wanted to show a couple of people with bullet holes in their head, but they didn't accommodate the dialogue for that decision, which results in
freaking A! I'm out 100 grand thanks to your friggin' fiasco.
No, I shall freak the F out. Don't like all that money sitting under a frickin' sink.
If you are a writer and you ever have a mafia crime lord using the word friggin', just please stop. I don't say this often, but this film is genuinely cringy. I mean, the dialogue, the impression that it thinks it's smarter than it is, that random ass song and dance number the Joker did. It's not cringe in a funny, memey way, just unironically cringe. 3 out of 10. Look, I know there's a lot more and a lot better Batman content out there. I'm not gonna let this one film color my perception of the entire franchise, but I have learned to be a bit more selective the next time I try something like this. And listen, if you like this movie, that's totally fine. I do think that it has some merits to it, and the things that I feel it does wrong aren't like earth-shatteringly terrible. They're just irritating and cringy to me. Anyway, that's about all I had to say about Batman: The Killing Joke. Once again, I'm working on the Kipo Season 3 analysis, so thank you all for your patience with that. If you want to keep up to date with its progress, as well as just hear more from me in general, you can go follow me on Twitter at KrossXC, as well as check out my second channel where I post basically whatever I feel like. And of course, if you liked this video, I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like. If you enjoy these kinds of video thought pieces, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed, and if you want to see more from me in the future, remember to hit the bell icon to get notified of future activity on this channel. And if you really liked me, consider pledging to my Patreon. With that said, thank you all for watching, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one.